Happy Thanksgiving and welcome, Scott. How you doing?
Yes, Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day, happy Turkey Day. I'm so happy.
Yeah, happy Turkey Day, guys, and welcome to the Political Matrix News. I'm joined here with Scott Miller, my partner in crime for the last 25 years of consulting, and we are going to bring y'all some news of the day with the consulting point of view and from the inside out, because it looks like today, I guess there was a shooting of two National Guard
Yes.
people right near the White House, and it's hatred of the law enforcement, and hatred of ICE, and hatred of the cops is being ginned up by the Democrats, and
Well, that may
really,
be
come
it.
on.
Honestly, we're going to have to take a pause on this one to wait and see exactly
Okay.
what the guy is, because this guy apparently the suspect they have in custody is an Afghan who was brought over entirely unvetted during Joe Biden's evacuation of Afghanistan.
That was a
And
disaster.
oh, I know, another disaster for sure. This was, I'm not sure that it's unclear right now. Was this the specific guy that they were like, hey, no, you don't, you shouldn't bring that guy?
Right.
But, but it was,
It's
you
interesting.
know,
It's National Guard. He shot.
to an Afghan, or to whatever, so and I shouldn't say an Afghan in particular, just to people from a third world country that is unfamiliar with the distinction between an American soldier, regular army, and a reserve. Although, I mean, I guess that's kind of there really isn't much of a distinction in any of them. We sent plenty of reservists out to Afghanistan, Iraq, and wherever.
Yeah. And they've seen them
So I mean,
before.
he's a genuine soldier, and for that Afghan may have been a genuine target.
What they say is a few blocks away from the White House, I think, right?
Few block, well, and again, that's something you kind of got to
Well,
watch
big
out for because
blocks. Yeah, I get it.
well, every walking distance. Well, you know what? I can walk a hell of a long way, so who knows?
Right.
So it just depends. Some of this stuff we have to take because both sides are throwing as much, red meat out into the fray as they
That's true.
can.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good fundraising thing for the holidays. But at the
Oh
same
yes.
time, we got two National Guard people here who got shot and hurt. And hopefully, at the time of this recording, nobody's died yet. But hopefully, they're not in that position to have those injuries like that.
I will say it appears that maybe the Democrats are learning a little bit of a lesson because numerous Democrats are coming out just saying this is horrific.
Well, they should.
Although one of them said it was horrific and needless because the National Guard isn't doing anything, but picking up trash, and they didn't have to be there. And I'm thinking, oh, and this is a journalist who claims to live there, and I'm thinking, well, that's easy for you to say now that you can walk the streets, feeling reasonably safer than you were, given the fact that apparently the trash they were picking up was also murdering and carjacking people. So
Exactly, but I was watching an episode of The Hill a couple of days ago, and I forgot exactly what show it was. They were talking about how how the crime in DC, how yes, it is safer, and they appreciate that. However, one of the hosts did not appreciate on how it became safer. She says, "I don't like the methodology that happened to make it safe. Although I do feel safer, I do not like the mannerism in which it happened." And the
well,
other
how
host
about
was like, "Are you crazy?"
how about you not make it so that we're compelled to do that? I mean, at a certain point, you've got to go send in the troops
Right.
when when the people in DC are literally abdicating their responsibilities.
Yeah, they are.
They're so busy playing politics that they're not even going to do their jobs. Well,
They're
now, well,
reclassifying.
Trump found someone who would.
They're reclassifying the crimes. I mean, and in fact, there was a lot of rumors, and actually not rumors, facts
They're not rumors.
and studies. Yeah, exactly, studies and facts that basically, if a carjacking happened, and then somebody might have like thrown something, they went ahead and gave them the lesser charge instead of the larger charge. And so they were
Mhm.
basically lowering the crimes and lowering the charges on these criminals, allowing them first of all to make sure it doesn't look bad or look horrible for the nation's capital be so dangerous, and then secondly, they're releasing dangerous people right back out to the streets because they're not really having any repercussions or consequences for the crime that they are doing. They get away with it.
Of course they do. But you see, that's the thing is they're trying to to on one hand, but they paint themselves in these horrific corners. Where on one hand, that they have to say, well, we don't want to be racist because most of the people committing these crimes are black citizens. But on the other hand, we don't want to admit that crime is bad because then our city councilman and mayor won't get reelected. So I mean, so they're walking this line while literally creating basically just kicking the can down the road. I mean, it's going, they know this
Right.
person's going to be a problem, but they're going to be someone else's problem a couple of years down the road.
And the
Well,
frustrating part is that
now we see what that yields.
exactly. And what we're seeing now is a racism side of the Democrat Party because you're actually looking at the race as a factor. And when race is not really the factor in the crime, the issue is that you have criminals creating the crimes. Not just
Hmm.
black people or Hispanic people or Asian people. There are a lot of white people committing the crimes too. But they keep on just saying, well, you're just picking on the black man or you're just picking on the minority. I'm like, no, we're not. We're picking on the criminal. We're picking on the people who are violating the law and trying to keep people safe. We don't really give a damn what color they are. It's like Jasmine Crockett. She's confusing Jeffrey Epstein's donation to somebody else with the other Jeffrey Epstein who's a pedophile because she just wanted to prove that, in FEC paperwork that, two guys can have the same name. Of course they can. There's a lot of John Smiths out there.
I
But,
mean, the Epstein thing just kills me because they're trying to make out, trying to connect him to all these Republicans when the fact is that 90% of the money that he handed out to politicians went to Democrats.
exactly, and he was a Democrat, and it went out to Democrats. When he was friends with Trump was when Trump was a Democrat. People aren't really connecting any dots here whatsoever. That was back when Trump in the '90s and Trump in the early 2000s, and he was not a big Republican at the time yet.
Yeah,
And he didn't really
no.
make his, deathbed confession of political party changing until like around like 2008 or 9. And it
Hmm.
started, I mean, more or less, it started with the birther movement and everything with Barack Obama. And it morphed into the Tea Party movement and it kept on going from there. But he was just, I mean, he's always been a populist, Donald Trump has. He
Hmm.
wasn't really a partisan guy. He's wanted business to work, government to get out of the way, and people to make more money. That was his whole thing. That's why he had a TV show called The Apprentice for several years. That people seem to forget that it was not a political show. It was about making money, about doing business. And he's running the country right now in a unique way, but it's working.
Well, I mean, how long has the name Donald Trump been synonymous with big business? I mean,
Exactly.
he's been a risk taker and a money maker for decades. And people say, "Whoa, he went bankrupt like a dozen times." I was like, "No, he
You
had
will.
companies. He had companies
Exactly.
that were reorganized under bankruptcy, and then ultimately wound up discharging the bankruptcies. So and that doesn't always happen with corporate bankruptcies. But Trump is a you know, r- r- you know, it's like when he was being elected, and Hillary talked about how Trump, didn't pay taxes, and
Right.
the implication of that statement, I remember, was always, that he owed taxes that he didn't pay. When the reality is that he simply took advantage of the laws on the books to limit his tax liability, like literally everyone who pays taxes does. I mean,
Exactly.
even low and moderate income people look at all these little opportunities they have to not pay taxes, and they check those boxes. I mean, they fill out the paperwork to do that. What's
Right.
wrong with Trump doing that? Well, it's no different. It's absolutely no
Exactly.
different.
It's like with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle has a good segment whenever he realized that he loved Trump so much. He's like, whenever he first heard Trump at the debate talk about the taxes and how the system is broken, and Hillary was saying it's not broken, and he's saying, yes, it is broken because I know how to work it. And a lot of us know how to work it, and it needs to be fixed or to not be, to be worked like that. And the reality here is that there are loopholes in the tax system, and people with enough money to have lawyers will figure it out. And until they fix all that, it's always going to be like that. So basically, it's all this here taxing the rich thing. The rich are never going to be taxed at a higher level. It's more boilerplate fundraising talking points.
Well, the top 5%, pay
Already are.
90% of the taxes.
Exactly. They already pay it already.
Yeah, I mean, they already do. Oh, well, you got to pay a higher percentage of your income. Well, no, you don't, because
No, you don't.
that's not what our system is supposed to be. We're supposed to have equal protection under the law. That's why I don't really understand this how this progressive tax system works to begin with. How can
Equal.
it be equal protection under the law if one class of people is paying one tax and a different class of people is paying a different tax? It's not equal protection.
Well, and you're right. Actually, somebody brought that up to me yesterday around here in Flagler County about property taxes. How property taxes are not equal because renters don't have to pay them.
Yeah, well, renters, it's
And
built
people in
into
apartment
there.
complex, well, exactly. I know. And I was trying to explain that to the guy. He's like, "Well, it's not equal rights. I mean, it's not equal, taxation. I mean, we're being taxed more, and the guy's paying rent in an apartment complex that doesn't have to worry about it." I'm like, I don't think this is. I think you're oversimplifying it.
And I know a thing or two about the financing of apartments, and I'm telling you that they just take whatever the pro rata share of that property tax is, and apply it to every unit.
Equally.
So, yeah, so it's not like it's not like there's no property tax being paid. Now, that doesn't mean that if they cut property taxes or even eliminate property taxes, that the people who pay rent are going to immediately get get a break in the rent, because it'll take a little while for that to work its way down, work way down,
That's true.
if it ever does.
Yeah, because I think, like we said in an earlier show, that the property tax elimination is only for people who are homesteaded. I don't think the apartment complexes are going to be homesteaded.
No, I don't know about that, but
I don't
yeah.
know either.
I don't. They're floating around a lot of proposals, but I seriously doubt that any of them get passed, because there is, I mean, immense opposition in the Florida legislature to that, and
There'll
every
be a
time, I
lot
mean,
of
literally,
pain.
I've already said, every time I go down there, there's someone talking about it and complaining, but that the governor is trying to push this thing through. When the reality is, I don't know if the governor even cares if it passes, because the more he fights for it, that makes him the advocate, the guy, the good guy. I mean, it's literally,
It's for his
co-opting a
wife.
Democrat strategy, where
Yeah,
they say, they say, we're the ones fighting for you. These people are, if it works out, I'm the one that won it. If it doesn't work out, those are the bad guys who are trying to keep me from helping you. And it's kind of a no lose scenario for the
right.
governor. Actually, the worst thing that could possibly happen for him is if it happened, if they passed it, because
It'd be very bad.
oh my God, it would disrupt, the economy of Florida in a way, in an unprecedented way.
Right. I mean, I think right now he's moving toward the more of the populism type of being a governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis here, because I mean, he actually has a new bill supporting puppies and trying to keep puppies and animals safer and everything else and I think PETA's like happy or something about that. Somebody told me today. And
Thank God
then,
we made PETA happy.
and then this whole issue here with he's saying property taxes are almost criminal in Florida. And I mean, his demonizing of all these different issues here. And I don't think he's really going the Republican route as much, because the whole Republican route would be to have smaller government, which means the local government is in charge of everything, not everything controlled in Tallahassee.
Hmm.
But you can't do that if you don't have any money.
But I'll tell you what, if he wants to eliminate property tax, great. It's going to take 10 to 20 years to do that, of a gradual step down that kind of walks away from it and replaces the local county funding with another form of taxation. I don't know what that might be. The most
Income?
likely candidate would be sales tax, but who knows? But if you want to do that, that's fine. But you try to do that in any kind of short term way, you'll crash the economy.
Yeah, if you even move that whole idea toward income tax in Florida, because Alabama has income tax, why can't Florida have income tax? Georgia has income tax, why can't Florida have income tax?
Well, Florida is actually one of the few. I think there's only a handful of states that don't have an income tax.
And it needs to stay that way.
It needs to stay that way for sure.
And so, I mean, but I mean, I see that as the only remedy to replace it, and that is not a remedy worth having at all.
Yeah. No, I've said repeatedly, that is not a tax decrease. It's a tax reassignment, and probably increase.
Right? It's regression totally 101, and it's
Mhm.
horrible. I mean, it's almost like the Florida, your Florida football team. For those who don't know, if you don't pay attention to college football, it's a horrible year at the Gator time. But
Yeah,
they totally
it's a bad
regressed
year to
from
be a
last
Gator.
year. Yeah, but We still bleed orange and blue, so we're so good.
No, I mean, and that's the thing, if you're not a fan of your team when when they're down, you're not really a fan.
Exactly. No, you're not. And so, oh yeah, you got the political matrix news koozie.
Mm,
I
mhm.
can. And so that's pretty cool.
Wait, wait, wait. Get the QR
Oh yeah, we got
code.
a
Yay!
QR code right there. Yes, go ahead and check that out. And yeah, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, so I think we're gonna have some T-shirts, and we'll have some links and everything in the description. T-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that for sale here on Black Friday. So if anybody wants
Mm.
to try picking those up, hey, it won't
For
hurt
the
you.
for the fashion conscious.
Yeah, for the fashion conscious. And little plug there for what we're trying to do. But no, but it's back to the politics of the day here. It's been crazy here with Ukraine and Russia. Looks like Marco Rubio and his team of merry men are coming to a good, close agreement with Ukraine and Russia. Although a lot of Republicans don't really like it, I don't really care. These Republicans who are isolationists need to realize, yeah, I'm not a big fan of supporting Ukraine either. Ukraine's an extremely corrupt, horrible country that
Yeah,
has a
yeah.
lot of money laundering and embezzlement. However, you cannot allow Russia to just run over a country, then run over the next, then run over the next, and recreate the Iron Curtain. You cannot allow that to happen.
No, and I'll tell you the really unsettling thing is the fact that Germany is prompting Germany to want to rearm themselves, and boy, they don't have a great track record for being heavily armed.
Well, it's only been 100 years
Well, fair enough.
since
Hopefully, they
since the
learned their
first
lesson.
war. Actually,
Hopefully, don't know. I don't want to have to, go with them again.
yeah, because I guess what World War I was what 1918, 1920, and
Yeah,
so World War II is 1939 to 45. So we're right there in the mix here of just around 100 years, 100 some odd years here since the last time they were armed heavily. And
mhm.
that's probably not a good idea for them to be armed at all because they kind
Right.
of get a little, they can get a little crazy than German people. A bunch of nukes and weaponry and everything else. I mean, they're nice
Yeah,
people. Hey, I'm a core German. I mean, there's nothing
the
wrong with
real
German
problem,
people.
with Germany is that they tend to think that we have great ideas, and you will listen.
They seem to think their ideas are the only good ones.
Indeed. Well,
Slightly opinionated.
once I mean, and in all sincerity, and this tends to be, I think, more of a European thing, although the Germans seem to have, brought it to an art form. But you still see the same sorts of things over in England, where they have
Yeah.
speech codes now that criminally prosecute people for offending people.
Well, they got Sharia
And
law over there too, which is ironic that they have the speech codes and they have Sharia law in the same country. And it's okay with them in the same country.
the statistic I heard was that Russia had imprisoned like a few hundred people for speech related offenses, while the UK had arrested several thousand a year.
Right. And it still
So,
allows Sharia law.
and they still allow Sharia law. I don't know the degree to which that's true, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, well, if anybody has any information they want to drop a comment on it and let us know what they think about it, because we actually been getting some pretty interesting comments here lately on the podcast. Because some few people think we're crazy.
Well, well,
Because,
it's just because we're um, destroying their fundraising narratives. Because as our regular viewers know, my heartfelt belief is not that the problems with our country are influenced by fundraising. I'm saying they're entirely driven by fundraising.
yes, slightly influenced, 100% driven. And so, I
Oh,
mean,
no. I know. I'm saying that driven and influence are the same thing. That they are,
they are.
entirely connected, joined at the hip, if you will. But that, that when the fundraisers figured out that by the higher the anxiety level of the people, the more the cash register rings, that honestly by itself, and I'm not limiting it to Democrats. Republicans do it too, but
Yeah,
Democrats have it as an art form because Republican arguments tend to be more data driven, and Democrat arguments tend to be more feelings oriented. Well, when you don't have
emotional.
logic, when you don't have logic to drive your narrative, then your feelings have to be supported by, well, we shouldn't do that. I mean, ultimately that's what they get down to. Not even a quote of a law. It's just, we shouldn't do that because it's not right to make them feel like that. Well, how does it make me feel?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage of the game, the Democrats' point of view is not really emotional; it's more violence. Because I mean, these people are going
Violence
off
is
the
emotionally
chain.
driven.
It is exactly. I agree with you. Violence is definitely emotionally driven, but I mean, they're taking it to a whole different level in Portland and in Seattle and all throughout California. And yes, it goes back to our original conversation with the National Guard people being shot. It's all these attacks on ICE. I think there was actually an attack on an ICE facility in Dallas again this last week, and once again, the person, instead of shooting at the ICE people, the ICE, he just randomly shot and killed an immigrant, just like the last time. The people that they say they're supporting and protecting, they're actually killing the people because they're randomly shooting in a place because there's no logic, they have no idea what they're doing. It's all driven by emotion and rage and anger. Granted, I'm not saying you should shoot anybody with precision or any kind of direction because that's bad also. I mean, I don't think anybody should shoot anybody. So let's just get out of the table. However, shooting randomly in a building, come on, guys.
Well, the Democrats, could not be more on the wrong side of this issue. I mean, they simply can't. Because I mean, from the fact that they're creating a slave class of people as in the in the immigrants,
Yeah,
to a slave class of people
slavery.
who are so divorced from the legal system that will, regardless of how they're treated by employers, um, eh, it's not. I mean, it's not good. I'll tell you a story I heard about my on my job site that about a subcontractor that I used to use, and they were talking about. We were talking about how a problem we were having with work getting completed on time was troubling, and then all of a sudden it got fixed. And I was just chatting about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That guy had a talk with his family back in Mexico, and all of a sudden, made them understand that they needed to get their work done." And I'm like, what you're telling me is they went back to Mexico and they threatened his family to do the work even though he wasn't getting paid. Is that what you're telling me? Why are Democrats supporting this system? I mean, it is beyond understanding.
It's,
And now, they're getting shot. I mean, there's just all sorts of things that are
yeah.
bad about it.
I
And the
mean,
Democrats just compulsively defend it.
and we go back to Jasmine Crockett once again. I mean, she was actually sitting there saying that the Republican authoritarianism and all the ICE agents was reminding her of slave days. And first of all, it's actually the Democrats who are wanting to enforce the slavery of these immigrants. I mean, I don't think anybody, I mean, I understand it's all fundraising and emotions, but there's got to be a point here to where some brain cells are working.
Well,
I mean, you
I
got to
mean,
connect some wires up here or something. You can't be that stupid.
I know, but I mean, they're literally. I mean, these poor people. I mean, I do have. It's not that I don't have empathy for them. I do. I absolutely
Oh,
do.
I definitely do.
But you can't just drag them over here, to make your political point, which is all they're doing. They're creating a victim so that they can be the savior, and then they're not saving anybody. They're just creating this giant friction so that they can appear to be the hero, and more importantly, they can ring that cash register.
How many of them are getting kickbacks off the contracts these immigrants are working as well? Who
Well, I mean,
knows? I don't know.
no, no, no. I see. That
I'm
frankly, that
throwing
would be
it
too
out there.
easy. No,
Well,
no, no,
yeah,
no, no. Because that's bush league. That's amateur hour. The kind of money, kickbacks they could get from that, they don't even care about. I mean that kind of money wouldn't even get you into their office.
that's true.
The money they're looking for is the donation back from the NGOs that they're funding with legislation. So it's government money that they want,
Right.
because you can't get arrested for government money. Well, it was difficult to be arrested for government
Well,
money.
we have a Congresswoman, Sheila McCormick, in South Florida, who actually is a Congresswoman, I guess, in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area, congressional seat 20 in Florida. I guess she was using FEMA money for shots and everything else, allegedly.
Well,
It's all
that's
alleged.
not the same. That's not the same thing I'm talking about.
Right. But yeah, well, she used $5 million worth of FEMA money and use it for her campaign to hit it through all these other hidden organizations, and they indicted her last week.
Good.
And so that'll be one. I mean, it's actually a district that I think Ron DeSantis is probably going to be redrawing and making it Republican anyway. And so, I mean, probably is going to be drawn out of the district anyway, so it doesn't really matter at all. But it's going to be another plus for Republicans in D.C. most likely if that happens. But, yeah, you're right. Amateur hour, it's a mess. Real quick about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's resigning. Have you heard about that? In January.
No,
Yeah,
no.
she's stepping down in January. She announced.
Yeah, she's probably planning on getting herself some kind of a fat media contract.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, she's stepping down, and she says because of her relationship with the Trump and the MAGA movement has splintered, and really bizarre. It's going to be another open seat, another Republican open seat, a very
I don't
Republican
care.
district.
I mean, I've thought in the past that Margaret Taylor Greene has had some very good points, but I think that she has also, you know, tried, what the way she's tried to do make changes and stuff like that. That she's not effective. I mean, she's more of a loudmouth than she is an effective problem solver.
Right.
And like I said, I mean, I agree with a lot of what she says, but there's a lot of the ways that she's doing it that I just think are counterproductive and actually make situations worse than they do making
Right.
them better.
That's interesting because we talked about Congressman Massey last week with Tim Martin here, and about how the Epstein issue was coming up, and she was very close to Congressman Massey, and Trump was saying, I guess, in a press conference or a airplane interview, I guess you call it, a couple of days ago, that he's sorry to see Marjorie Taylor Greene go, and he said the worst thing she ever did was become friends with Massey, who is, as according to him, still the worst Republican congressman in the history of the Congress. I guess because he was after the Epstein stuff. I have no idea. But the interesting thing was that everybody voted for it. I mean, it was unanimous in the House, unanimous in the Senate.
Well, let me tell you, I heard, I forget who was floating this idea, but it seems very credible to me, because it's the type of thing that Trump would do. Because Trump knows what his relationship with was Epstein, and he knows what so he knows that there's not any actual evidence, that he did anything inappropriate because he was there and he didn't do it. That how can there
Exactly.
be evidence if he didn't do it? So the idea that's being floated is that Trump kind of knew where this was going to go, and he just kind of slow pedaled it and just kind of let the Democrats completely overcommit themselves into demanding that this Epstein stuff be out because that's all where all the information about Trump is. And now he said, "Oh, okay, well, he had them extend themselves so far that now they can't take it back, and now he's going to dump on this Epstein stuff, only to find a lot of very prominent Democrats in those files."
Yeah, and also they're probably going to find that he is actually the one that probably was a narc on Epstein that turned him into the feds. I mean, or at least Epstein thinks he was. And so the whole idea here is that if he was guilty, why would he do that? And he did, and he's not guilty. So I mean, the whole point is there's no there there. It's kind of back to what Megyn Kelly was saying about Hillary Clinton's um, thing calling Trump Russia a Russian agent, a Russian asset, and they all knew this was fake. I mean, this all goes back to the James Comey investigation and everything they're trying to do right now. I think they just had a grand jury on that a couple of days ago. And I know the statute of limitations are about up with James Comey, but I think they're trying to get the statute of
No,
limitations. Well, yeah, they said the
they're
statute of limitations ended on 5 years. It's supposed to end 3 days ago,
only
but they're trying to extend it.
not if there's a conspiracy to cover it up.
And
The statute
exactly,
of
you're right.
limitations does not start until the conspiracy ends.
That's true, and that's exactly the angle I think they're taking with it now. Because the whole lying to Congress, that statute of limitations ended, I guess, 3 days ago. But it was a conspiracy because him and Clapper and everybody else, Brennan and the rest of the guys, and all the other 50 CIA agents that signed off on it because they wanted to help the Clintons and everything just stop the Trump train back in 2016. That's a conspiracy. And I think people don't realize that anytime you have more than one person, putting all this together here and it's illegal, how they're doing it is called a conspiracy. And you're right, the statute of limitations are not ending until after the conspiracy is over, which actually the conspiracy is still going on.
It's
I
ongoing.
mean, they're still saying he's a Russian asset. They're still saying he's a Russian agent. They're still saying that he's friends with Putin. It's ridiculously redundant and wrong.
Even if they completely stopped on the day that he took office, that was less than a year ago.
Yeah.
So we are
It's,
well within the statute limitations.
and so I think a lot of people are talking about, Hillary and Bill being brought up in charges.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah, the thing that
I
I
don't think
find
it's going
so
to happen.
infuriating the thing I find so infuriating is this allegation that they're making that Trump, this is political retribution. He's just going after his enemies. Well, if my enemy robbed a bank, is it political retribution because I'm prosecuting for robbing the bank? These
Yeah,
people committed
exactly.
real crimes that have real implications and real consequences to American voters and citizens.
Yeah, it's kind of like the entire video that we talked about last week, that which went a lot further with with the Congress people telling the military to go ahead and violate orders. I mean,
Oh
they're
my
taking it
God.
one step. I mean, we just saw it was just a video. I mean, I had no idea they were going to double down on it and then double down on it again and triple down on it. I mean, these guys are really adamant about military people disobeying illegal orders. The whole definition is that, the guy, Mark Kelly, he
Mark
is
Kelly.
a military guy. And imagine if he gave an order to a soldier and he just thought it was illegal. I mean,
Well, that's
what would happen? I mean, what's the definition of a legal order? I mean, who defines it? I mean,
Well, I
really?
mean, no. I mean, there are very specific criteria for what constitutes an illegal order. The problem
But
is that
yeah,
that nothing that Trump has done is an illegal order, like in the manner of what they're saying. Now, there may be orders that Trump so, and what constitutes an illegal order is not what they're implying that it is. You know, like an illegal order would be, take that man out in the street and shoot him. Right? That's an
yeah,
illegal order. That'd be something
exactly.
that you could probably fairly safely disobey. But just because you disagree with the president on these issues, and your opinion is that what he's doing is illegal, doesn't mean that his order to you is illegal.
Well, having
And
been in the Air Force, there's no way any people I served with would even know what was or was not in legal order. If I mean, because I mean, they're mechanics or they're gunnery guys. They don't have those. They're not legal expertise. They're not. They don't get it. And to assume that all of them understand it and basically throwing that splinter in there to break down the morale. Because nowadays, with everybody politicizing everything, they're going to think anything's illegal just because they don't want to do it.
well, they've spent so much time demonizing Trump. I mean, think about it. They spent 10 years calling Trump a wannabe dictator and a criminal of all varieties. So in the head, I mean, we have Democrats who are soldiers. I mean, we
Yeah.
have very liberal people who are soldiers. And
Hmm.
these people agree with these Democrat congressmen. And the problem is they're literally talking these guys, and trying to mess with these guys' heads to think, well, if it's an illegal order, you can violate it, and don't worry because we're going to have your back. They're not going
No,
to
they're
have your
not.
back.
They are
They're going
not.
to you're going to get prosecuted. Your life's going to get ruined, and what's going to happen? They are the whole time, they're going to turn you into a martyr for their cause, and they're going to fundraise off save this oppressed soldier. But ultimately, they say about the cops. The cops have a saying: you can beat the rat, but you can't beat the ride. All right, so maybe at some point in time, they eventually get these guys bailed out, but it'll be only after they have served years in prison. Thankfully, just
Exactly.
like the people from January 6th.
Exactly. Obviously, these Democrats and maybe the people here from Black Lives Matter should take a lot of credit. They have taught people very well on how to raise money off tragedy, raise money off bad situations, and not do anything to help the people that they're raising the money for.
Well,
And these
that is in
soldiers are going to be hung out to dry.
what in the words of Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste. All right, he wasn't talking about political. He was talking about money.
Anything. Exactly. And the way they're capitalizing off of this is very similar to how BLM was capitalizing off all the the violence and everything else between the police and people and people they arrested and blowing everything out of proportion and exaggerating everything to a level to where they're raising money for these families. Which some of the families really needed it because I mean some of the things that happened were bad. Some of them were over exaggerated. But the reality here is that the people who ran the organization did not do anything to help the families whatsoever. Not not one dime. And the same issue here is these Congress people and these multimillionaires are telling these soldiers to go ahead and break orders and violate orders and just go with your gut, follow your TikTok scent, and just do whatever the heck you want. Because in the military, you don't have to follow orders. In the military, everything's relative, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There is no structure. There is no
No,
there
and,
is no code.
no, and the really despicable thing about this is this crap that they're saying. They're talking these guys into this, and they're going to wind up getting people killed just so they can make
Exactly.
some money.
Yeah, the Uniform Code of Military Justice is a very simple constitution of the military. You follow that. You follow orders, and not like, maybe not like a few good men where, you follow the code red, like Jack Nicholas says, the code red issue. But, the thing is, though, you're a soldier and you are not there to go ahead and make policy. You're there to follow directions and follow orders. And if it's illegal, it'll be handled.
Well, that code red, that a few good men thing is actually a very good example because the code red is not something that is endorsed by the military in any way, shape, or form. There is nothing in any military book that says or any of the SOPs or nothing. There's nothing in there that endorses that. In fact, it is
No,
banned in the military.
it
So
is.
so it actually, you want to see an example of an illegal order? Being ordered to do something that is counter to military law is an illegal order. So,
Exactly.
so, so, military justice 101. If that's what you want to talk about as illegal orders, go look at things like that because when Trump gives you an order to go and shoot at a terrorist, you go shoot at the terrorist. I don't care what you think is the right thing to do.
Exactly. If people want to talk about the National Guard going into civilized or civilian areas, let's look at my dad was a National Guard member back in the 70s and the 80s. And he had to go down to Miami during the Cuban riots in Miami to help keep the peace and help support the law enforcement down there. He and around, I guess, two or 300 other Florida National Guard and Georgia National Guard and Alabama National Guard were all sent down there because of the huge immigrant crisis. I forgot what it was called. I was only 5 or 6 years old. It was around 79, 80, 1970 1980, that time frame. And, that's what they were there for, to support the law enforcement. It's to support the local authorities. And that has been done since the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. It's not a new thing.
It's not remotely new. I mean, they seriously bring these guys. They bring out they call out the National Guard when the local officials are overwhelmed. You call out the National Guard. That's what the National Guard's for.
Exactly. And it's kind of interesting also, I think the legal thing nobody's realizing here is that although Trump is saying that he's calling these other states to do it, the actual people doing it are the governors of those states. It's not Trump's not calling Texas and tell Texas to send people to Illinois. He's not calling Georgia and tell Georgia to send them to California. The Georgia governor's doing it. The Texas governor's doing it. The Florida governor's doing it. In fact, I think right now they removed some of the National Guard from Chicago because the stupid judge said to, and crime went over almost 100% the next 72 hours. Crime went rampant in Chicago because the stupid judge said that people don't need protection. It's a violation of some sort of civil right or bullshit or something like that. And what happened? More people got shot. More people died because the law enforcement does not have the help or the support, and they need it. Whether they know it or
Well,
not, or whether they care
well,
about it or not, they need it.
well, this is working its way through the court systems in a pretty rapid thing, and I expect that Trump will very quickly get the Supreme Court authority that he needs,
Oh,
and
yeah,
uh,
sure.
and then, but it's like with this whole Epstein thing. Trump just is doing these things to sucker the Democrats into an untenable position, endorsing an untenable position. and they're and it's only a matter of time before he gets the same thing on this.
Yeah, I mean,
So the Supreme Court is going to, you know, reinforce his authority to do this, and the Democrats are just going to be sitting there holding their hands out, like what?
exactly.
I don't know
I
if they
mean,
could be more ineffective.
we have Cory Booker, the senator from what state is that? New Jersey?
New Jersey, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's actually saying that he's ashamed of the Democrat Party right now. That he said the Democrat Party of today is an embarrassment. It has no direction, no leadership, and does not really understand that it's a politics first instead of people first. And that it's about time the Democratic Party got back to putting the people first instead of politics. Which I thought was very ironic for Cory Booker to say that, because if anybody knows who Cory Booker is, every single statement he makes from that dais in the Senate is all about politics over people. So if he wants to take this whole people first thing, congratulations. Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the Republican Party.
Welcome to the Republican Party, because that's all the Republicans do, is that we're trying to put people first. I mean, we actually had this government shutdown about extending the Biden budget, not the Trump budget, not the we're going to cut taxes and everything else. That wasn't even on the table. We're talking about the Biden spending and just extending that because they wanted to give money to illegals or fund health care for illegals or something
No,
like
this
that. Some BS.
Yeah, no, this was all about Obamacare and SNAP, and if Obamacare has done nothing in the world but it has made it crystal clear that the more involved in medical care the government is, the more expensive that care gets, because
Exactly.
the government, because you know the medical providers know that the government check is going to clear every time,
Exactly.
and it's not going to create it, and
I'd be
so
delayed.
they expect that they take a judgment of how much financial pain people are willing to endure to get medical care, and when the government forks over a bunch of money, well, the consumers don't feel that pain.
No. Then when you take a look at Snap, you saw a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse in Snap. I mean, over 42% were taken by people who are most likely illegal. That's
Well,
not a
all
lot.
you got to note about that is that under Biden, SNAP expenditures, were like, what, they almost tripled in 4 years. He tripled the SNAP expenditures.
It's almost
I mean,
parallel
come
with the
on.
amount of people coming over the border. Yeah.
The suggestion that people, illegal aliens weren't getting this money is ridiculous.
Just imagine this. Imagine if you had the same amount of money, same amount of money, because it's probably not going to go down any. If it does, it probably won't go down very much. But then you take all the people who are off the books that are illegal, and you have basically around 55% left. And so you take all the money that was going to them, and possibly it could actually go to the other people, or it could go to something other. I mean, who knows? There you go. Yeah.
It's not going to, the dollar from Washington itself is not going to illegals. But what they're doing is they're using that to cover a state expense, and the money that was covering the state expense before is now going to illegals. So it frees up state resources that they can give to illegals, which is ridiculous, which is the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
It is. And it's definitely nothing but a show game and a money game that the Democrat Party has been playing with, and they are using basically regular hardworking people who actually are needing SNAP and are needing benefits because
Indeed.
they don't have the ability to keep up with the cost of living that has been driven through the roof by the illegals and by all the people here coming over. And so, I mean, there's lots of reasons why the cost of living is going up. It's not just because everybody just thinks it's real simple. It's because we have a lot of people coming in that are not documented, and it takes a lot of resources away from a lot of people don't realize, and we talked about this before ad nauseum, but every single city, and I mean, if you actually want to take a civics class, every single local budget, you and I work with a lot of local counties all the time, and every single budget is based on how many people are living there. I mean, even your hospitals are based off how many people are living in a zip code. You have to have notation. You have to have everything notated. You just can't let people come over and not have any record. It can't happen like that.
Well, I would defy someone to name one thing that the government gets involved in that becomes cheaper.
Exactly.
College education is a great example. When they start, when they enacted the bills that allowed for student loans, for government guaranteed student loans, which made basically money freely available to anyone. The people in charge of the universities were, all of a sudden said, well, great. Well, now in order for us to attract more students, we need to build out all these extra things for the university that have nothing in the world to do with education. There's
Exactly,
all
nothing.
I mean, the ratio of staff to students is getting alarmingly close to 1 to 1.
I
It's just ridiculous, and all that does is make education more and more expensive, and then basically, makes repayment almost impossible because
right.
you wind up putting so much first of all, you have young people who have no concept of financial management and who
No.
believe that, oh, well, I know it's going to be tough to start with, but once I get this college degree and I get a job, I'll be able to pay all this back. Wrong.
But, well, the only people I've only known 2 people who pay their student loans back quickly, and my father is one of them, and my mom's the
Yeah, but
other.
your father got a student loan before education got stupid expensive.
Yeah, his was only like $8,000.
Yeah.
And so, and that was back in the 70s. And he paid it off for like 10 years, And so, I mean, he was also a government worker after that. So he had it as an allotment coming out of his check. So, I mean, he was a county agent. And then he became a professor for 40 years. And so it all just, he just made sure it all came out immediately. But he actually cared about that. Now, me, on the other hand, well, thank you, Mr. Trump, for forgiving all the disabled veterans their student loans. I appreciate that. Thank you. I really needed that. But there's a lot of people out there who just have no idea what their student loan is or how much it is or anywhere close to taking care of it.
Yeah, it's just that's just dumb. There's no I mean, it was an entirely foreseeable consequence of the student loan program. It's an entirely foreseeable consequence of the healthcare. Obamacare. It was entirely. I mean, just everything. I mean, you
Everything's
name it.
foreseeable.
Everything the government touches gets more expensive as a result, and in a lot of cases, a lot more expensive.
Yeah, according to the Constitution, I think the government's mainly supposed to be there for support and safety. That's it. And maybe if they should just get back to the basics, do that a little bit, Fund the police, not defund them, fund them. Once again, the Democrats want to defund the police. I mean, it's interesting how they want to defund the programs that are constitutionally needed to protect everybody, and they want to fund programs like LGBTQ plays in Afghanistan or Sudan or some sort of condom program in Congo or something. I mean, it's ridiculous how they are negotiating and reappropriating all the different dollars where they don't give a damn about the American people.
Well, I think it's naive to believe that money was actually going for condoms or any of that other crap.
Come on, it might
No,
be.
no, no. Every time you send money to foreign countries, to third world countries like that, graft, corruption, and kickbacks are just part of doing business.
Everybody should go back and watch the show, I don't know if you ever watched The Blacklist. Somebody should just go ahead and binge watch that because, I mean, it's a very reality here that criminals and the Democrat Party and everything else are very much tied together with a lot of
Well,
the
I'm not gonna
funding.
limit that to the
Republicans too.
Democrats. I'm not. Yeah, yeah,
Republicans too.
I have absolutely no doubt that there are Republican Congress people, legislators who who benefited from some of those programs, but I think most of it is just dramatically more over in the Democrat
Right.
side. Now, also a lot of government workers. I mean, a lot of deep state government workers, they were just feathering their nests in ridiculously,
Definitely.
stupid ways.
Oh yeah, and it goes back to the Epstein thing. I mean, everything comes full circle to this whole Jeffrey Epstein issue here and the files. And I'm glad they're going to be released and everything, and that's going to be really good. That's going to be. I can't wait to see what's in them because the Democrats should be scratching their heads and finding a hole to go hide in because all this graft and everything else and all the corruption. Now, I'm sure a lot of the classified part because he probably was a CIA agent everything else, most likely. And that's what they're finding out. And so I'm sure a lot of it's going to be very classified. They're going to realize how sensitive the information was. It shouldn't have been released. I mean, It's not like, he was peeing on a bed in Russia like, they said Trump was with some hookers or whatever with, and they had to get a FISA warrant that was fake to do that, and then Russia Gate. It was actually real stuff.
One of the things that just came out, I think Glenn Beck was talking about it the other day, was that with Jeffrey Epstein, if you send $10,000 to your brother-in-law over in Wisconsin, the Fed gets a notice. There's a suspicious transaction. There's another word for it. It's just escaping me right now. But they get a notice. And all right, Jeffrey Epstein did something that suspicious 5,000 times, and they never turned him in for it. They never sent the notice, and that notice is statutorily required. So
Unless you're
why is Morgan Stanley looking at? He's sending billions of dollars around the world. Why is Morgan Stanley ignoring this? I don't know. Maybe they had a good reason. I don't know what that reason could possibly be, but but there's someone whispering in their ear, yeah, don't do that.
it's probably immunity. Most likely an immunity agreement that a lot of undercover deep agents get. I mean, I have a family that has a very big background in the CIA, so we actually know a lot about this kind of stuff. It's reality. I mean, it's not pleasant and it's not good or wanted or anything, but it is reality. And some realities are just, the way they are. But I think we're going to go ahead and call it a week here real quick. Thanksgiving is going to be fun for everybody. I hope by the time this airs, it'll probably be Thanksgiving Day. So I want to say I'm very thankful for everybody here who watches our show and pays attention and participates in comments and agrees and disagrees. And I really don't care how y'all feel, but just as long as you feel something. And that's the main thing.
I agree, and do yourselves a favor. The next time someone sends you a fundraising request, put that money in your pocket. Give it to your kids. Give it to someone local, and stop participating in political fundraisers.
And that's forcing you the fundraising request. And go ahead and, feel obliged to go ahead and give it to your family as well.
Exactly. Happy Turkey Day, everybody.
Happy Turkey Day, Scott. And you guys be safe over there in Pensacola. We're going to have, I think it's going to be cold over here. Real quick, what's the weather going to be over there?
Starting Friday, mid-50s.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be mid-50s, and I guess it's going to be around 38 degrees on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, the
We're in
lows in the
Florida.
30s, highs in the 50s.
Yeah, we're in Florida, so global warming, baby.
That's bitter cold.
Actually, it is pretty cold. Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah, good night.
Remember to subscribe. Follow us on all your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you see it.
You name
Find
it, we're
us.
probably there.
We will be. Good night.